Hello, it is May the 14th. It is a Saturday. It's almost noon, and I'm doing an experiment today. This week, I didn't read as much as I wanted to. I got about 12 hours in between Sunday and Friday. Today is my last day of reading for my reading week because I start from Sunday to Saturday. And I'd like to at least hit 20 hours. I'm at 12 now. That means an 8-hour reading day, which is a lot, and it's very exhausting as well, especially when you're a little bit older. When I was younger, no big deal. Now that I'm older, I get very tired when I read. And that is why today I am reading for an hour, and then I am going to walk on the treadmill for 10 minutes. I'm going to switch spots every hour though. I'm going to start in my chair. I'm going to go down here to the floor with my cushion, over to the kitchen table. And I'm also just curious, hey, which position allows me to read the most pages? And then I will measure how many steps I take throughout the whole process. And I hope to read from about noon, about 12 o'clock, until a little past 9 o'clock tonight. I am reading Darcie Little Badgers, A Snake Falls to Earth. This is a YA book, so I'm thinking about 1 minute per page. So this book should take me a little over 6 hours to read. So I hope you enjoy this experiment. I know I'm going to. I like doing the little stupid things like this just to kind of challenge me and also to help focus on a goal. All right, so here we go. All right. Okay, so I'm about to start the first hour. I have my little timer here, my bookmark timer. This is what I use to measure my weekly progress. But then I also have my little cube here that I just turn to do a timer of like 60 minutes or 15 minutes or 30 minutes. So what I'll do is I'll turn the cube here to 60 minutes, also start my weekly timer so I can have my total amount of reading for the week. And I'll start my first hour here in the chair. Okay, I finished my first hour of A Snake Falls to Earth. I did get very tired. I read 56 pages, not quite the 60 that I expected, but pretty good. I'm hoping that walking on the treadmill will wake me up some so that I don't get as tired reading the second hour. So now we're gonna jump on the treadmill and walk for 10 minutes. So 10 minutes on the treadmill was exactly half a mile. So every time I walk for 10 minutes, it is a half a mile. I'm excited to see how many miles I walk at the end of the day. So now I'm going to read here, sitting down on the floor at this little table and seeing how many pages I can read here. Okay, so sitting on the floor, I read 60 pages. 3 pages more. I don't think it's the positioning. I think that maybe there were a few pages in there that were just easier to read. So next is at the kitchen table. I do have to say though, I did not feel as tired during the second hour, so maybe the walk helped. And then I just walked again, and now here is the third hour of reading. So for my third walk, I decided to go outside. It finally stopped raining, so I walked a little bit more, about 20 minutes. Sitting at the table was about the same as the other places, so that tells me the position that I'm in makes no difference in as the amount I read. So now I'm gonna grab something to eat and then get back to reading after I eat. So I finished A Snake Falls to Earth by Darcie Little Badger, and I loved it. Highly recommend it. I'll talk about it more tomorrow. So my day of reading ended up being about 6.5 hours of reading, and that was all reading this one book. I did end up taking a nap after I ate dinner today. As far as the walking, I was able to walk for 60 minutes today. It's about 3 miles. Some of it was outside, some of it was on the treadmill. Altogether today though, I walked 12,000 steps which is pretty good, which is about 6 miles, just between everything I did today. So that's pretty good. It's important that when I read a lot during a certain day, like today, that I move around a lot as well, because it's easy to read all day and then eat all day as well. And unfortunately, you don't burn calories when you read. So yeah, the most I've read was 65 pages, and that was near the end of the book. So 65 pages in an hour. So as the book came to a close, I wanted to read it faster. The position that I read didn't matter, though I did get more tired reading in the soft chair. Reading here on the floor or reading at the table, I didn't get as tired. So maybe when I'm tired, I can go to those spots in the future. So that's a good thing to know. All right. So there are two worlds. There's the spirit world, and then there's Earth. In the spirit world, there are animals that can change into anthropomorphic versions of themselves that are kind of like people, but they still have resemblance of their animal form. On Earth, the animals that are very populous on Earth are very populous in the spirit world, and they're very strong. However, if the animal is going extinct or they're struggling on Earth, in the spirit world, the spirit animal is fading. There is a young snake, a cottonmouth snake. His name is Ollie, and he just left home. He lives in the spirit world, and he goes to live by a lake. He meets two coyotes. One is a coyote/wolf, and then he meets a toad who becomes his best friend. He meets a bird that becomes a good friend of his, but then he also meets a mockingjay who is not a friend of his. On Earth, we have a young girl looking into her family. Why does her women in her family live to be so old? Is it because of where her grandmother lives, this special place? What is going on? Her great-grandmother tells her all these stories, and she's trying to find out what her family history is all about. So that is the start of A Snake Falls to Earth by Darcie Little Badger. As the book progresses, both plots converge, and I love this. Ollie, the cottonmouth snake, is the best snake in any book I've ever read. He is just a fabulous character that I loved tremendously. Nina, the young girl, was great as well. There's just a lot of heart in this story. It reads like a middle grade, so I would say it's a for younger YA readers, but it's just a delightful, lovely story that I really liked. You know, it has this spiritualism, this fantasy element to it, but in the end, it's really just about friendship. And that's what I loved about it. It's a book purely about friendship. And I recommend it. If you're looking for something light and fun to read, check out A Snake Falls to Earth by Darcie Little Badger. So imagine you wake up and you hear, what is 2 + 2? You try to answer, but you can't form a word. The computer voice asks again, what is 2 + 2? You grunt something out like, once again, 2 + 2. You have no idea what's going on. You're on a bed. It's pitch black. There are tubes on your body, down your throat, everywhere. There's IVs on your arm. What's 2 + 2? Eventually, you're able to say 4. And then the computer asks, what is your name? You don't know what your name is. You don't know where you are. You look around. Finally, the lights come on. You pull out the tubes that are in your throat, that are in places that we don't want to talk about. You pull out IVs. You look around, and there's 2 dead people in capsule beds like the one you're in. They're skeletons. Flesh is kind of hanging off their bones. The computer keeps asking, what is your name? But you don't know. You don't know where you are. So that's the beginning of Andy Weir's Project Hail Mary. Fantastic opening scene, great beginning. It is a space adventure about a group of people trying to save Earth from climate disaster. So they have to go to another star to find answers. I love this book. It was a lot of fun. Andy Weir does basic science in science fiction books that I really appreciate because I'm not a science nerd. So when he explains it, I can actually understand it. And that's why I think he's popular. He writes populist science fiction books where people can actually understand the science that don't know a lot about science. And I appreciate that about his books because I know nothing about actual science and physics and astronomy and astrophysics, but Andy Weir does, and he is able to tell a layman like me how it all works. He has this quirky first-person narrative, this guy trying to survive in space. It's just fantastic. The book goes into a place that I really, really liked, but that I don't want to talk about because I think it's a great scene, a great reveal. And I highly recommend it if you haven't read it yet. I know a lot of people have, but check this one out. It was great. So I have another recommendation for you. It's a novelette. It's from Fantasy and Science Fiction Magazine, the April and March issue from 2022. It's called Dancing Little Marionettes by Megan Beadle. And Megan Beadle wrote this story as a way to process her own grief with her sister dying. And what I really loved about this is that the marionettes in the story were created. However, they acted independently from its creator, but they still did what they were intended to do as a creation. But as the story progressed, they became more independent from the creator, and it made you wonder, like, was the marionette creator, was he doing this story, or were the marionettes having this story without the creator? And that was a question throughout the entire story, and I really appreciated that, and that's why I really enjoyed it, because it was a story about grief, loss, as one marionette's sister dies on stage. She has to overcome that grief, and she meets another man who is not really supposed to be a dancer, but they fall in love, but then things happen where they just can't be together, and it's just like a great love story and a story about grief, and it's just written really well. I highly recommend it. You know, the more I listen to Pseudopod, the more it's becoming one of my favorite places for weird and horror short fiction. I have two stories to share with you today. The first one is by Sean Padriac Birnie. It's from Pseudopod 797 earlier in the year. It's called New to It All. New to It All. And it is body horror. This guy is not experienced with relationships or having sex, and he meets some women that are into a little bit some kinky things. The first one was, a woman that had does a little scratches and stuff, but whatever. But the second one, she really liked to bite his fingers off. Now, when she would bite his finger off, there would be no pain, and the finger would come back onto his hand like the next day. And so this is a very interesting story that shows the dynamics of relationships and how really complicated they are, and how you give a piece of yourself to the relationship. You make sacrifices for your significant other. And I thought that the themes in this were just fantastic. The other one was by Greg Stolze, maybe Greg Stoltz. Her Face, All Teeth. Her Face, All Teeth. This is from Pseudopod number 810. I think this was the most recent one. And I really enjoyed this as well. It follows a man who is very unnoticeable, and he goes to a church to overhear people's confessions. He can hear very well, so he sets himself up outside the confession booth so that he can hear people's confessions. He does his own confessions as well. When a really weird woman walks in and talks to the priest and threatens the priest, he has to figure out what is going on. And when he goes to confront the woman, she doesn't actually talk like normal people. She talks to him in his mind. Really great story about guilt, shame, and what we do to cover up those feelings. And it was really good. I was very creeped out, but it was very good. So those are my 2 recommendations from Pseudopod that I enjoyed this week. Check them out on podcast. I really enjoy it a lot. In Wanting Things by Cal Ritterhoff from the Clarkesworld 186 issue, that is the March 2022 issue, there is a love affair between a smart home named Lucy and a toaster named Kevin. And this story is amazing. The occupant of the house, Rebecca, has a relationship with somebody, and Lucy, the smart home, follows Rebecca's relationship and almost mimics the things that Rebecca does in her relationship with a toaster. Kevin is a toaster who just really wants to give people some good toast. They both fall in love, and this is just a story about an unlikely love affair, how they come together, how they come apart, and how they come back together. And it's fantastic. Highly recommend it. Please either read it on the Clarkesworld website or listen to the audio from Kate Baker on Clarkesworld's podcast. So that is it for me this week. I didn't read as much as I wanted to, but hopefully this coming week I'll be able to stay up a little bit later, not be as tired. I've learned that I need to move around more at nighttime, change the position where I'm reading so I don't fall asleep. I've only lost like 1 pound this last week. I went to visit my parents more this week and ate with them. So hopefully this coming week I'll eat more here at the apartment. They're going to be moving pretty soon in like 3 weeks. So I will miss them, but the temptation to go over there and eat a bunch will be gone. So as far as the no internet thing, it's been fine. It hasn't been bothering me at all. However, what has been bothering me is not being able to watch anything like a movie or a TV show or something. Sometimes when I'm too tired to read, usually I would have watched a TV show, but now I'm in this weird situation where I'm too tired to read, but I don't know what to do. I don't want to go to bed yet. So that's why I'm trying to figure out ways to wake myself up so that I can stay up maybe an hour later to read some more. My schedule right now that I want to have is sleep 10 to 6, but it's not really working out too well. I need to get a little bit better sleep. But luckily for me, the last three nights have been great. Hopefully this coming week, we won't have as much rain. It rained a lot this week. I didn't get to go for a walk very often. So I hope to go for a walk every day this week because it'll be nicer than last week. Also, I didn't work out enough. I was just tired. I'm full of excuses today. Okay, I will see you all next week. I hope you enjoyed this video. See ya.